what has actually happened in Nigeria, and with a bit of creative license, try and weave a story that would, give us a bit of background as to what happens behind the scenes in aviation. A lot of us jump on a plane, not knowing what happens, where the luggages go, or what the pilot says to the air traffic control, or all the happenings behind the scenes, which is quite a lot. Nobody knows about it. And that was my initial feeling, to kind of lift the lead on what happens behind the scenes in aviation. And unfortunately deal with issues like crashes, which we try to represent.
Did you envisage to portray a more lethal crash? Like here it is one person and you portray it as if it was choosing to stay in the plane to die. But as you know, there are plane crashes where more people die. Why did you choose this kind of ending?
If I had killed everybody on that plane, there would be nobody in this room right now. Everybody would have walked away and felt, why did I watch that? It's very depressing. I think there was a very conscious effort to try and keep it as positive as possible, to end it with a note of happiness, a good feeling at the bottom of your belly, to say, at least there was a crash, they flirted with danger, but only one person died, and actually that person wanted to die. And it was, up until a few years ago, Nigerians were officially the happiest people alive. But we've lost that title, I think, to Sweden. And that's why I see very happy faces. It was just an effort not to make it very dark, because if you make it dark, it would not work commercially, and we were trying to make a commercial popcorn, if you like, film. And it worked commercially because officially it is the highest grossing Nigerian film in the cinemas in 2012.
How many millions?
It's a tax man.
Can you give us the artistic or narrative reasons behind the repetitive scenes that we saw in the movie?
Okay. And I'm going to say this very unashamedly. I don't care what people think. This narrative style is a photocopy of a film called Vantage Point. Anybody seen that? Yes. I watched Vantage Point and I said, wow, that's a nice way to do it. And I said, I'm going to try it. As you do. I'm not going to say that anywhere else, but really, we try to and fro, to back and forth with the story in such a way that the perspective changes. The first time it is from the point of view of these people who are embarking on this journey, and further down the line we made it more technical. What happened with the pilot, the actual problem with the plane. So you would find that there are places where the scenes would have crossed, things that you would have seen twice. But hopefully you would have seen them from slightly different perspective. That's the idea. I don't know if it worked, but you experiment with these things. Yeah. I'll come round to you.
Sorry, this is more a comment on the editing that you were just explaining, and I think giving us the opportunity to go back and forth allows us to rediscover these relationships between people, to sort of see more depth into their relationships and then understand things again better. And I really enjoyed the way you kind of bring us to the edge, and then you're like, oh, back. Let's go back over here. Then we start again. That was a really good way to build up the tension.
You could tell she's a filmmaker. she just won a Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Award for a short film that she made called Yellow Fever that showed yesterday. And thank you for your comments. One question, so I'm not going to say anything.
Two questions, if I may. You were talking before about the new direction of Nigerian movie making. Maybe you said, I didn't quite get how would you describe that direction? And the other question is, about gender stereotypes. I saw some good things, the gender perspective the issue here, like the female pilot and the young woman who refused to be, to accept her husband's infidelity and didn't want to be a housewife. But beside that, I also saw some stereotype, the way the women and men are acting towards each other, if I may say so, a bit stereotype or expected. So what's your comment on that?
What was the first question again?
Okay.
All right, let me take that before I forget that. To give you a bit of background, Nollywood started as an entrepreneurial business, not an artistic business. It started because at the time when VHS tapes were discontinued to the whole world, some smart Chinese businessman decided to dump them on some smart businessman, he thought, in Nigeria in early 1990s. And this man had a warehouse full of VHS tapes at a time when nobody wanted them. So he decided to make a drama in local language and put on those tapes. And they sold. So his mates who were next door did the same. Told a story, put it on the tapes, and sold them. And it sold. So an industry was born. So at the very beginning of this industry, there was no attempt to make it look nice. There was no attempt to take good shots. There was no attempt to spend weeks. In fact, the average turnaround for a Nigerian film up until fairly recently was 5 days. And this is straight from idea to being on the shelves. And it was, if you are the person that's known at that time, whose star is on the rise, you are in every film. And because you are in every film, people buy it, and they don't care about the quality. But gradually, there was a bit of audience fatigue. People just said, you know what, we've created an industry, yes. Now can we make it an industry? They started demanding more, started voting with their feet. And then there was a decline in DVD and VHS as a format for exploiting what we do. All of those combined together got the industry on its knees, and it had to resurrect from that. And the resurrection was the emergence of cinemas in Nigeria. So the cinemas that died off in the late 80s and 90s because of security problems started resurfacing in multiplexes. Just like you will find them in Sweden. And there are only 10 of them at the moment. But those 10 have kind of regenerated a new interest in making slightly better, slightly more artistic films. And I count myself as one of those people making those films. And next question is gender. Okay. All right. I think I've received a lot of pats on my back so much that my back hurts now because I did some things with gender. In fact, the representation of gender equality in the film is by far more advanced than what obtains right now. And there was a conscious effort to do that. I could have made the pilot, the co-pilot, a male, but I insisted on a female because it brought certain dynamics to what happened in the cockpit. I could have allowed the young lady, even the air traffic controller at the end. I actually didn't just make her a female, I made her a Muslim female, which the people in the northern part of Nigeria have applauded me for. So I am not going to engineer the kind of change that Nigeria needs in terms of gender appreciation in one film, but every little helps, they say, in Tesco, in the UK.
Hi, Obi. I don't have a question, I have more of a comment. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for a very, very good film. Afro-Swedes, we're not very many, but when we see things like this, it encourages us and it lets people know that Africa is not all about misery, but there is progress and potential too. So thank you.
Thank you. The thing about Nollywood, thanks for those comments, they're wonderful. The thing about Nollywood is that it kind of, I would say, liberated Africa. First of all, we had an opportunity to tell our own stories by ourselves, irrespective of the quality. And then it's like when I went to South Africa, when I went to Kenya, a lot of the people on the streets were calling me Oga, and speaking in Nigerian pidgin English. And it's exactly what America did to us. The kind of intellectual, artistic colonization that we experienced, we are almost teaching the rest of Africa to do the same and say, you know what, we export our culture around the world, around Africa, and do the same too. And that happened that once Nigeria got up and running, Ghana film industry borrowed the leaf from us, and they're one of the strongest on the continent now. And it is that ability to be able to tell our own stories without any kind of agenda. If America had done this, I can tell you, the pilot would have been an American, he would have saved the day, and all the people that made the mistakes would have been Africans. So it is for the first time we are able to tell these stories, and I think it's called the democratization of digital technology, and Nigeria is at the forefront of that.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to see you personally. Thanks. Yesterday I was watching YouTube and you are commenting. I was very, very impressed, not knowing that I'm going to meet you today. So what I want to say, there's a point that's very good in the film as a Nigerian, which I would like you to point out yourself. Like Omotola there, who was trying to get a ticket. You see, she could have lost her life. But that is what is going on in Nigeria now, which I want you people to point out at the airport. I came from Nigeria a week ago. At the airport, I want to take foreign airport as an example. Here, Orlando, know something we call bribery of people. You have to put on your tongue. But Nigeria, you saw what happened there. The man promised she will find a ticket for her. I was on queue at Muritale Airport. Somebody was coming to me, said that if I want a quick position to go. I asked him, what do you mean by that? He said, the queue is too long. I told him, I'm not an handicap. I can stay any hour to come to my own turn. This is one of the things that I want you people to act. This is a bad practice. It's not our culture. We look at it, we're black here and so on. Even Prime Minister here, we only respect, the Swedish people respect him because he's representing them, not because of his position. But that is not happening in Nigeria. There are a lot of foreigners that our people at the airport, we collect their passport behind to help to go through something. I stopped about 50 passports that day. So what I want you to say is that this comment, I want you to be helping us to put it in film so that our people will know the reality.
I was going to try and stop it before he discouraged all you guys from going to Nigeria. Nigeria is a lovely place. We are a bit abrasive, a bit edgy, a bit not so compromising. But we are very wonderful people. Any Nigerians say, put your hands together. And we have our issues. We have our issues. Just like every country will have their issues. And one of the issues that we have is corruption. It's being fought. But it's endemic almost. We inherited that from the UK. Fact. We inherited that from them. And we've kind of, as you do, formed a very drug-resistant version of corruption that is killing the country. But gradually we're working on it. And we highlight some of these things and people see it and they react to it. And hopefully we'll change that gradually. You've been wonderful, audience. Thank you very much. And,